Hello, Tyne. Today I want to talk to you about what you do when you feel stuck while writing. When writer's block kicks in, when the novel no longer feels like the thing you set off to write, it feels like a completely different story. It's just the worst feeling. And so I'm going to talk about what I do to overcome that. But you need to act on this fast. The most detrimental thing to any novel, the reason why I've stopped writing so many of my novels is I stop writing it. I'm like, oh, I'm experiencing writer's block. This doesn't feel quite right. I don't know how to get from point A to point B. I'm just going to stop and think on it a while. Do not do that, please. Please, please, please don't do that. That is how you're going to set aside your novel for the rest of your life. You're going to work on it for 5 years, get to the end, realize you need to edit it, look at the editing, see that it's going to take a lot of editing, realize your writing's improved so much in 5 years, and never finish the novel. That is what has happened with so many novels that I've started writing, is, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next. Oh, this doesn't feel like the story I started writing. I'm just going to set it aside. It is the death of a novel. So here's what you do. First things first, talk to someone about it. Talk to a writer friend, talk to your dad, talk to your cat, talk to a stuffed animal. I'm pretty sure that programmers or game designers, or I've heard this from one of my friends in the tech industry, you have a rubber duck that sits on your desk and you talk to that rubber duck about what your problem is, what you're experiencing, and why it's so hard. And that way you're going to be able to assess what is actually wrong with your novel and where you're feeling off, as opposed to just a general, this doesn't feel quite right. That's not very helpful. So talk to someone about it, and then either record the conversation or jot down a list as you're writing of this is what feels wrong, and oh, killing this character is a bad idea, it changed all of the rest of the feeling of the book, or this isn't right, that isn't right, and really assess where you feel you went wrong. What is wrong with your novel? It can also help you a lot if you go back and you read the first chapter where you were super inspired to write and you knew exactly what was going on. Maybe listen to a playlist you listened to while you were plotting the book or when you first started writing it to kind of get back in that mindset of how you wanted the book to feel. If you're still having a hard time assessing it, you've talked to someone, you've thought about it, you really need to think about these things. They are so difficult. So if I'm listening to music while I'm trying to think, I'll get derailed. If I'm playing on my computer, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about my book. Actually, I'm watching YouTube videos, but really I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with my book. It doesn't work. I tell myself it works. Other people tell me it works. It doesn't work. Take a shower, take a long car ride, take a walk, do something boring where you can't work, you can't be distracted, and think. Meditation sometimes helps with writing so that you can figure out what you need to write next, what you need to do next, what is wrong. If you still can't figure out exactly what's wrong, or if you have, delete that part. I know it's so scary to delete. I actually have a whole folder, a whole file I should say, for every book I've ever written that is just deleted stuff. Things I cut out, scenes that I removed, things that I was too scared I'd want it back later, and so I copy and pasted the last 3 paragraphs, the last chapter, wherever I feel I went off course, into a different document. I have that document open while I'm writing. If I ever think, oh, I wish I had this part, I just go, I grab it and I put it back in. But never once in 4 novels have I gone back to the thing I cut out before. It's always been whatever I just wrote that feels wrong. The hardest part is after you've written that and you've deleted that, figuring out what to write instead. From this point a little bit further back, now how do I get there? And usually that'll break my writer's block right away. The other tip, I'm cautious to give this tip because it is so dangerous, but watching or reading a good book, movie, TV show, it can really just put a light bulb over your head. It can give you so many ideas. It can inspire you, like, oh, I want it to be like this. But it's dangerous for a lot of reasons. You can get hooked reading the book, stop working on yours, put it aside, forget about it. You can get so influenced by that movie that your book just turns into a copy of the movie, which you can never make a copy. It's okay to be inspired by it and try to take some of the elements, because when you write it, you'll be putting in your own like experience and past and everything about you, so it will end up different. But it can also make you feel like a fake. It can make you feel like, oh, this isn't really something that I wrote, I basically just rewrote that, and that can make you want to put away the book later. But if you can find something, I talk about companion books a lot, something that you're reading alongside while you're writing, or a TV show you're following that you just look at whenever you get stuck, that can help. I like companion books, but there's sometimes a point where you get too caught up in it and you stop writing, or you are pulling too much from it and you write your book off track. So it's a very dangerous thing to do, to seek out inspiration in the form of other already written things, already developed things, but it can get your juices flowing if you're extremely stuck. Maybe instead you could look at some art, look at some pictures, set up a Pinterest board, but try to keep doing things related to your book. Look up quotes, look up images, create like a vision board for your book. Go back and look at your plot. Read through your plot from beginning to end. Read through what you've written, maybe, depending on how long it's been put away. That's also a little scary, because you don't want to dive in and start editing it like, oh, this is going to happen, because depending on where your book went wrong, you might end up getting rid of all that stuff, and that is terrifying. That's awful. It's a waste of time. It's a complete time suck to edit your book before it's finished. I've done that way too many times. Oh, I'm going to edit this. Oh, I'm going to edit this. Oh, I need to change that. I get to the end and I realize I didn't need that scene at all. This whole chapter was wrong. Another potential thing that you can do, this is also something I've warned against a little, but just putting 3 stars and then writing the next scene you know. The 3 stars is something that you can search later, like control find 3 stars, and then you'll be brought back to that point of the book where you didn't know how to connect those things. And sometimes it's extremely useful. You've written to the end, you know how it's all gonna wind up, you know that, oh, in this section, it would be a lot more impactful if these characters had a fight right now. Or, no, this character really doesn't need to go to the library, that has nothing to do with the rest of the book. I'm just gonna skip over to the next important bit. And while it's amazing when a book skips over all of the boring parts and it just goes from awesome action-packed thing to, ooh, deep psychological thing to, ooh, another action-packed thing. And it's a lot of fun. It also can get very tricky. I've written a couple of books where I was like, I don't know how to write this part. I don't know what I need to write in this part. Put 3 stars, finished the book, went back and was reading through it, and I was like, I don't know how to write that part, and that's a key part to the book. I don't like this entire plot element to the book that I knew I needed to write, but I can't. That happens to me specifically when I try to write high school. I really hate writing anything that takes place in high school, because I only went to 1 year of high school. I hated high school. I didn't go. I went to college instead. I know how high school works. I've seen enough things that have high school in it, but I hate writing in the high school setting, and I have written one too many stories that have been set in high school, and then gone back and didn't want to edit it, didn't want to write it, didn't want to write these classes, had 90% of the book take place outside of high school, and then go back and think, well, why did I even have it written to be set in high school in the first place? But it can be good if you know that you'll go back to write it. I think the most important thing is to keep writing, is to develop the habit of writing, is to keep your butt in the chair and force yourself to write. As cliche of writing advice as it is poor, is not helpful enough advice, because I know I hate when I'm going through Pinterest or I'm going through Instagram and I'm looking at all of these advice things, and it's like, oh, your novel's amazing, or like, oh, I have 2 emotions, I'm either great or I'm awful, like all of those things, and then there's some famous writer who's just like, put your butt in the chair and just write. That takes all the creativity out of it. I do think that it's a lot more fun to write what comes to you in the moment and then go back and edit it later. I enjoy editing. I hate it. I hate writing. I hate editing. I hate publishing. I hate self-publishing. I hate submitting to publishers. but I love the whole process of being a writer, of coming up with an idea, fleshing it all out, writing, getting these great scenes, getting to edit it, go through all the nitty-gritty little details, never knowing when it's enough, then finally getting to that point where it's done, it's as good as it's gonna get, and then doing everything you need to get it out into the world. It's fun, but it's awful. And you just need to know how it works for you, where it's gonna fit for you, how you as a person write. If you know you'll go back to it, you can skip it. If you know that you just need to write this part, you just need to get through it, and then you can go and fix it in editing, then write it as just the bare minimum, no good sentences, just write telling the audience this is what happens, so then later you can go back and show. Because occasionally it's just a matter of you really want to write the next scene, and so you want to speed past it, and that's fun, that's exciting, but those are the things that I do, some things to warn against, some things to try if you're stuck. Just, as long as you're still working on it, it's okay to have writer's block. Everyone has writer's block. And it's not something to be afraid of, it's a time to be inspired, be creative, and work on other aspects of your book. The thing is, you just can't set it aside, you can't forget about it. Don't let it be the death of your novel. Just try to stay in the moment, try to stay happy about it, try not to get frustrated, space out some time to sit around and just think about your novel, and it always seems to work itself out. At least with these things that I've done before, these things that I've tried, it's worked itself out for me before. So I really hope this helps you. Good luck with your book. Don't stay on YouTube too long, like go back to thinking or writing, or put this aside, or close everything down. But before you do that, subscribe so that you can find my content later, since right now you're closing down YouTube and you're going to go for a walk and think about your novel, right? And then if you're still stuck, you're going to like this video so then you can find it easier later too, right? And you're going to share it with all of your writers friends so that none of them will ever get stuck again. Do whatever you want. Have a good day. Enjoy your writing. I wish the best of luck to you. That's all my tips. That's all I know right now. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.